Waynna. Trippy is not here again this week. However, he is excused. We have so many new calls at the funeral home, which means that loved ones have passed on and they've called Congo Funeral Home to service their family. So he has an excuse this time. So on behalf of all of us at Congo Funeral Home, thank you so very much for allowing us to take care of your loved one. This week, Mr. Blunt had his, it was such an awesome tribute to the Honorable Ted Blunt. Services were held last Sunday as well as Monday, and people from all walks of life came out to pay tribute to him. So on behalf of the Blunt family, thank you so very much for your support during their time of grief. I am really excited. Trippy and I, a few months ago, we had this wonderful gentleman who is my guest on this evening, Ray Fitzgerald, who is the Executive Director of Wilmington Housing Authority. And we've asked him to come on quarterly, and he's kept his word. He is here tonight. So please make sure that you call everyone. Tell them to tune in to the Congo Hour. We're going to be sharing some great information that you, a loved one, or someone you know will be able to use. I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back.
DETV has been Delaware's premium provider of creative digital and broadcasting solutions that bridges communities and connects people. We create great stories for all audiences. We deliver independent news throughout Delaware. We are digital platform innovators. And we develop marketing and sales solutions so you can stay connected to your audience. Now, why do we do what we do here on DETV? We do it because we care. So, keep watching and follow us on all of our social media platforms. Remember, DETV, online, on air, on time.
Welcome back to the Congo Hour. Once again, like I said, I am so excited to have Mr. Ray Fitzgerald here with me on this evening. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we said every quarterly, you said make it happen, reached out, and here you are. So appreciate you. There is so much going on in Wilmington Housing Authority. When we talked about the topics that we can discuss, it amazed me because a lot of times when people think of Wilmington Housing Authority or public housing, that's all they think about. They don't know all the ins and outs of what you're responsible for. So let's start with the youth build.
Okay, so yeah, we have we got a federal grant a couple of years ago to create a program to help a lot of folks call them now opportunity youth.
Okay.
Youth who've dropped out of high school, age 16 to 24, who just need support, getting themselves back in school, back in the workforce. So the Youth Build program is, we hired a group of people that work with those youth to help them get a high school diploma, a GED, and employment and a certification. So I think right now we have recruited over 100 youth. We're actively working with about 30 or 40. Some have already completed the program successfully, and now we're just tracking them as long as they want to be engaged with us to make sure they stay on the right path. And some of the different areas that they can get certifications in are construction trades, culinary programs, IT programs, things like that. So we try to keep it interactive and fun, but also productive for the young people that we're engaging with to be successful. And we're making pretty good progress.
Okay, great. I can attest to that. I came in contact with a young lady who said she was one of the first students to be a part of Youth Build, and just to see her progress from, I want to say I felt like she had like low self-esteem. Like now she's proud to be who she is. Right. So yeah. Well,
the thing about it is, and you mentioned it earlier, like we can't just house people and then walk away. It's our job at the Housing Authority and whatever, using whatever resources we have to help folks get stable housing, but then to help them do better, help them get better jobs, help them improve their education, help them improve their skills so they can become self-sufficient and maybe move out of public housing, move out of Section 8, so then other people can move in. And so they can be, examples of the success stories that come out of these programs rather than the negative misconceptions that people have about these programs.
Yeah, I was one. I want you to talk about the difference between public housing and Section 8. Growing up, I always thought that you had to be like dirt poor to be on Section 8 or in public housing, and that's not the case. So do you mind sharing the difference between Section 8 and public housing?
Yes, so it's funny, I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday. So, and before this, I used to work for social services. I was the director of the Division of Social Services. And I used to always take the opportunity to let people know that these folks that are in these programs are generally the working poor. They're not people that don't have initiative. They're not people who don't work hard. They're the people that our society don't pay enough to be able to take care of themselves.
And that's almost a lot of us,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So, for example, one of the criteria, the eligibility criteria, one of the preferences that we have for our Section 8 program, and I'm going to answer your question, but
oh no, you get there.
one of the eligibility criteria is you need to be working, right? There's also elderly, disabled, but working is a preference. So those people get preference. So any able-bodied individual, any able-bodied adult that's receiving, that's in public housing, or able-bodied non-elderly adult is likely working, and they're working poor, and these are the resources that are put in place to help them be able to live, because the way our employment system is set up, we don't pay those folks enough to live.
Right.
So Section 8 is basically where we pay a subsidy to a landlord, and so that one of our affordable housing folks that we're helping can live in a house with reduced rent. So our subsidy reduces the rent, and they all have to pay a portion of the rent with the landlord. Public housing are units that WHA manages, and folks live in public housing, and they pay a small amount of their towards their rent as well.
Okay, okay. I like that you said that the main goal and objective is not for them to always be on public housing or Section 8, but to push them to own their own possibly.
Yes.
So you mentioned affordable housing. So Wilmington Housing Authority has Section 8 public housing, and you also have affordable housing, but that's a different...
Our nonprofit Delaware Affordable Housing Group.
Okay.
So, but you mentioned something, and I wanted to, well, I'll talk about Delaware Affordable Housing Group first. So WHA years ago created a nonprofit called Delaware Affordable Housing Group, and it had been, pretty dormant for years. But in the last couple of years, we've activated, and it's become very active, an active part of our strategy to create public housing, more public housing in Wilmington, but our nonprofit can operate anywhere in the state. So, or anywhere, because it's a nonprofit, it's not a government entity. So, how the nonprofit complements WHA is, for years, Congress, because I have to be careful, I don't want to blame the folks at HUD because it's not their fault.
Okay.
Congress for years have underfunded housing authorities throughout the country. So as a result, if you have X amount of dollars, but you need X, Y, and Z amount of dollars to renovate your units that become vacant, and you don't have it, you have to put those on the back burner. Well, when that happens for 10, 20, 30 years, you have 10, 20, 30 years worth of units that go in disrepair because you don't have enough money to repair them. So what the nonprofit was able to do is work with the state legislature, the governor's office, and the city. We were fortunate enough to be awarded ARPA funds, and we use those funds to renovate our long-term vacant units. So at any point in time, when we first started, we had about 30 to 35 long-term vacant units. And right now, we're actively working through the nonprofit. We're actively working to renovate all of those units. Some are already renovated, but we expect before the end of 2024, all of those units will be renovated. So some of those units, and I know you know because we met with a group that you are a part of, some of those units have been sitting vacant for 20 to 30 years or more. So, and some of those units may be worth $100,000, might cost $200,000 to renovate.
Right.
So these funds that we were able to raise through the different partnerships with the different entities statewide were integral in helping us renovate those units. And now these units that have been an eyesore to communities and have been unusable for us to use them for affordable housing, now we're getting back in queue for affordable housing, and they're going to be able to help some families and make people not think that we don't care about our houses in their communities.
Right, because sometimes, I mean, that stigma is given.
And one of the things, I forgot what I was going to say, and now I remember it. One of the things you talked about was how, when I mentioned we should be transitioning people off of public housing, same kind of thought process people have about people on public assistance, they have about people who are in public housing. So, and it's a misconception. Most people who are able-bodied who receive public assistance are either working or have worked in the last 12 months, and they're generally off of public assistance on average within a year, right? For public housing, most people, depending on whether it's Section 8 or public housing, are only on anywhere from 4 to 6 years. Okay. So, and that's everybody. That's even counting the elderly folks and everything. So, again, people have this misconception that these people are sitting around and doing nothing, and that's not true. These people are hardworking people who just don't earn enough to make it on their own, and that's what we're here to support those folks.
I promise you, I wish that I was more educated when I was younger, because I definitely would have taken advantage of the opportunity.
Right.
Yeah. You mentioned seniors. I know that seniors are very important to should be important to everyone. And we believe in, yes, most definitely, we are who we are and where we are a lot because of our seniors. Yes. So there are some special things that you do for seniors.
Right. So one thing I want to mention briefly is I got a call from a young man named John Casali. He's a student, senior. He plays football too at Salesianum. And he wanted to partner with us to provide, partner with WHA to provide a Christmas meal for some of our elderly residents. His thing was, he felt that this would be a good partnership, and he didn't want people to be alone on Christmas and not have family, not have support, have people share a meal with people. And he organized this huge event. It had coverage from local TV stations. The governor was there. All kinds of local politicians were there. And I cook on Christmas, so I didn't have a chance to get there.
We'll have to talk about you being a chef.
I didn't have a chance to get there, but we had staff there, and from all reports, it was an excellent program. And I wanted to make sure I acknowledge that. Okay. And the support that our resident services team did to work with John and the people at Sally's to put this program together. That was an excellent
So
turnout.
the seniors that are part of Wilmington Housing Authority were those that
some of the beneficiaries of this, participants in this program.
Okay.
Right. And another thing that we do, so when I first got to WHA, a lot of the seniors wanted programming and things like that. like aerobics and gyms and things like that at our facilities. And I mean, we're actually apartment buildings. We're not set up for things like that. Our insurance is not set up like that. The liability issues, things like that, make that not viable for us to do. Yeah. But we listened, and we had an opportunity recently to partner with the Wilmington Senior Center. So what we're doing is we're working with. We created a program with the Wilmington Senior Center where we're transporting some of our elderly folks who want to participate in their programming. And they have gyms, they have programs, they have lunch, they have things like that. So we're picking them up, taking them to the program, bringing them home, and feeding them during their stay. We had such a big interest and big turnout from our recruitment efforts that we have to break it up where folks can only go like on certain days, just to make sure we can accommodate the travel. And some of the folks are going to need accessibility transportation, accessible transportation. But we're doing that to provide activities for some of the folks that wouldn't otherwise have activities that are less mobile, things like that, or some of the ones that are mobile too. But like we heard them, we heard what folks wanted. We couldn't do it the way we wanted it, that they wanted to do it, but we found another way to do it. And I mean, I think that's our job, to do whatever we can to make our folks, whether they're our elderly folks, our families, or single individuals, as comfortable as possible as we help them become self-sufficient.
That's very commendable that you found an answer to the problem and not just say, we can't do it because insurance and that's it.
One of my mentors always told me, he said, it's Hannibal, the conqueror Hannibal, his motto was, we're going to find a way or we're going to make a way. And that's the way I approach things. I love that.
So I really want to talk about you being a chef, but we're going to hold off to the end. What other programs does Wilmington Housing Authority provide?
One of the program that I talked about all this stuff, but the program that I'm most excited about and I like to talk about the most is our home ownership program.
Okay.
Again, people think that we're just warehousing people, that not just us, all housing authorities, is just warehousing people. And what we're doing is just a microcosm of what most of the housing authorities in Delaware are doing. So our home ownership program over the last 15 years have maybe helped 120, 130 people purchase houses. And what happens is there's all kinds of incentives that are given to these folks. They actually, I'm going to call it training. They train them to be able to understand how to take care of a house, understand how to budget. They go through a program called Stand By Me, which is a United Way program that helps them teach them how to be financially able. And this has been very successful. And the most exciting thing about this program is, out of all the people that they've helped, that have been through the program, that they've helped purchase homes, not one foreclosure in those 15 years. So that, to me, that speaks to the success of our resident services team and all the folks at WHA involved in the program.
So being a realtor, it's very important that people don't just purchase a home, but like you said, you train them how to budget. Because now that you own the home, you're responsible for, you can't just call the owner or the landlord to come fix it. Now you're responsible for those things.
My son and his fiance just purchased a house, and I have a lot of nieces that have purchased homes. And I tell them all the time, this is my budget training that I give them. Whatever your budget is that you work out with before you buy the house, add $500 to it, because that's probably going to be more realistic. Yeah, so it's like that, but that's something that you can tell some folks. But if you don't tell folks that, that'll be a really rude awakening when they see their bills don't match their plans.
Like, oh, now I got to pay taxes. Yeah, city taxes, school taxes. Yeah, so that's very great that they learn. But you mentioned 130, 150 people. But it's way more than that, because I'm sure those individuals that purchase a home have kids or
Right.
mother or somebody
Yes.
that is
Impacted by
benefiting
their
from
ability
that.
to buy a house.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I was trying to think, you have mentioned, I'm worse than you now. It was something that I wanted to go back to as far as the housing, but I cannot think of what it is.
You can ask me next quarter.
I can ask you what?
Next quarter.
Yeah, if I remember that, I'll have to write it down. Is there anything else that I missed that's important to talk about this quarter?
I can't remember either. So
You can, okay. All right. So now let's go back. You mentioned you wasn't able to go because you're a chef.
No, it's like I call like holidays like Thanksgiving, and those are like amateur holidays. You know, Christmas is like those are holidays where real cooks get involved.
Come out.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So that's what you was doing. Christmas you was cooking.
That's why I couldn't make it to the event. Yes.
So I know that I had your food. It is absolutely delicious. So I'll give you that title of chef. You earned that. So what did you cook for Christmas?
What did I cook for Christmas? So we have several things going on Christmas. So we have a Christmas Eve thing with my wife's side of the family. We have brunch and dinner on Christmas, and that's me. So I made I don't know if I made salmon for Christmas
Absolutely
dinner.
delicious.
Yes, I made salmon. Other people made stuff too, but I made salmon. And I made, all the
But
food
wait,
for
it's
the
not
brunch.
just salmon. What?
It's teriyaki salmon.
Teriyaki salmon.
And for Christmas Eve, I made stuffed salmon with crab meat and spinach and all kinds of other goodies, and it was a good time.
What made you? Like how old were you, or do you remember what made you want to cook?
Well, my dad was a willing cook, but he wasn't the greatest cook.
Okay.
But my mom is a great cook.
Okay.
So between the two, I get my willingness from my dad and my skill level of cooking from my mom.
Okay.
But just trying different things, watching cooking. Like when I was a kid, I used to watch Julia Child.
Oh gosh.
So
okay, yeah.
these young people are like, who? And my wife a while ago made a deal with me. She said, "Look, if you do all the cooking, I'll do all the cleaning."
Oh, so you was like,
"What?"
deal.
Yeah. So that was the motivating factor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is funny. I just started having a love for cooking when I was married for 17 years, and my husband and I call him my husband, my ex-husband. We're like the best of friends, but now he's like, oh, now you want to cook. So I love cooking.
Yeah.
It just gives me such joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to see people's reaction when you make something good and they enjoy it.
Right. Yes, that part. Yeah. So that is so funny. So she cleans, you cook.
That's the deal.
That's the deal.
Yeah.
So, all right. And so I want to thank you so very much for coming on. I know you're a busy man because there's a lot of things that you have going on there. You have board meetings, you have this, you have that. So thank you so much for taking time out to come share with us. And we're going to see you next quarter.
Next quarter you want me. But thank you for the opportunity for us to be able to let people know about some of the things we're doing. I think things like this are very helpful to, like I said, the misconceptions that they have about our population and our programs. Things like this will help us, dispel some of those misconceptions.
I know what it is that I wanted to talk about, and I don't know if you can remember them all, but would you please share with our viewing audience the senior facilities that Wilmington Housing Authority oversees?
I remember. So, so Parkview, the Parkview is one of our buildings, but that's a tax credit building. It's more akin to Section 8 than is the public housing, but it's still under the auspices of WHA. Down the street from Parkview is Baynard. That's one of our buildings. Crestview on Market Street is one of our buildings. Hurley and Compton off of Walnut are 4th and 5th and Walnut are two of our buildings. Now, So folks need to understand this. Luther Towers, we are the landowners of Luther Towers. We recently purchased Luther Towers, and we did it in conjunction with a private company, and the private company manages Luther Towers. So
that's good to know.
Just so people know that Luther Towers, the way it was acquired by this company, because there's all kinds of, I'm glad you asked this.
Oh, good.
There's all kinds of rumors that, they're going to gentrify Luther Towers. They're going to make it into condos for rich people. The way Luther Towers was acquired, it's the HUD funding that is in that building requires it to stay affordable housing for like the next 30 years.
Okay.
So anybody that's saying it's going to be condos is wrong.
Okay, I didn't hear that rumor,
Yeah.
but thank you
There's
for
always all kinds
for
of-
sharing that.
Yeah.
But I wanted you to definitely share what ones you own.
So that people don't blame us for other ones.
For other ones, because there's a lot of stuff
Right.
that's going on in the city, and
Right.
I don't want Wilmington Housing Authority to get blamed, because someone did call and ask me, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't
That's-
think
yeah,
so.
yeah,
So yeah, thank you for
Get-
sharing that.
Get us for the stuff we do.
Right,
Yeah.
that part. Okay, all right. So I'm glad I remembered that, because in another quarter might have been too
Yeah,
late.
yeah,
so,
good. No,
all
I
right.
appreciate it.
Okay, so thank you so very much again for coming on. All right, so that is it for my segment with Executive Director Ray Fitzgerald. Going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Government doesn't make a move without an agenda, some type of plan. The problem is we haven't been on the agenda. Sometimes we're overlooked. Sometimes our interests aren't the interest of those in power. I'm your host, Kerwin Gaines, on DETV's new show, The Agenda. We're going to do our best to ensure that you, Delawareans, are knowledgeable about what's going on in the Assembly. Federal government, local government, it doesn't matter. We're going to do our best to ensure that folks that make the agenda on a daily basis have to answer for it. Let them explain what they're doing. If it affects you, it's on the agenda.
Welcome back to the Congo Hour. I tell you, during our break, I love it. Gotta love it. So earlier, Trippy said, speaking about Mimi, and I was a little nervous to share the news because I didn't get permission to, not knowing that it's already all over social media. So
right.
my son Hunter, who is known as DJ Blair, and his beautiful girlfriend Brittany is expecting a girl.
All right.
And this
Congrats.
is Hunter's first baby.
I know. So congratulations to Hunter and Blair. No, not Blair. What's her name?
Brittany.
Brittany.
Hunter is Hunter Blair.
Congratulations to Hunter and Brittany, and congratulations to your whole family, Mimi.
Thank you.
Yeah, having a girl. I think you said when? Well, you said
April 30th
April.
is
Okay.
the
All right.
due date, but you know,
All right,
we'll see.
yeah. Shout out to
Yeah.
Hunter and Britt.
Yes. You ready for my favorite part
I
of the
am.
show?
I
Is he
am.
ready?
Hopefully by now he is. Just had some technical difficulties.
Mr. C, what we gonna do with Trippy?
While we were off air, but he is
What,
mic'd up.
what you gonna do with him?
Mic'd up and ready now.
You love him to life, so it ain't nothing you gonna do. Mr. C, I was really excited to see you walk through those doors.
You know, Waynna, I am excited to be on this show tonight. On Monday, I was so uplifted to see a community response. And it's not normal to have a council meeting where the community really does what they did. You know, it seems to me that I've learned so much. I wake up every morning to learn. I'm a learner now. I want to I realized how important it is to learn, and and to know difference. Difference is very important, and wisdom allows you to understand difference. And so I try to acquire the kind of difference, wisdom every day to help me to learn difference. And difference makes all the
Difference in the world.
everything in the world depends on which way you go.
Yeah.
And what affects you is based on the difference. And so what I saw on my little computer on Monday was there was definitely a difference in what the community thought of the concern that everyone had and what the council thought. And it made me realize that somewhere there is a lack of communications between the city council people who represented their certain district and some of the opinions and the way they vote and what the community wants. So on Monday, or even last week on Thursday, it was clear that there was a difference. And if the city council has the wisdom that I would hope that they would have, they would understand that that difference is going to determine whether they return again. And they made it clear that they were not satisfied with the decisions that some city council people made. And so it made me begin to understand why so many people have lost confidence in politics. Because they were angry, and very angry that they had made some decisions that they were not a part of the process.
Right.
And so I guess, Trippy, you can help me out a little bit because...
So I think you put it very nicely when you said lack of communication, because there was definitely not a lack of communication between the public and council members around. And what we're talking about is residency. And either, if we're going to eliminate residency or if we're going to continue residency. And what that is that if someone works for the city of Wilmington, they have to live in the city of Wilmington for 5 years and then they can move. If they don't currently live in the city and they're hired by the city of Wilmington, they have to move into the city within 6 months and then stay for 5 years and then they can move. So the administration, so there was a law that first residency was as long as you work, years ago, as long as you work for the city, you had to live in the city. Then I think it was 20 years, and I think it was brought down to maybe 12, and now it's 5. The administration sought to eliminate residency. And their reasoning is because there was a staffing crisis, and they had to have a bigger pool of applicants. So they wanted to eliminate the residency requirement. So in other words, people could live anywhere, work for the city, and then city services would be where they're supposed to be. Like the constituents, the residents who live in the city would receive the services that they're paying for. Right now there are about 110 vacancies out of, I think the city employs a little over 1,000. So the administration, the mayor wanted to eliminate residency there so they could hire people, those people could fill those positions, and then constituent services or resident services would be would be on par. So Dover gave the city the ability to come up with our own residency requirements. So before, Dover kind of ruled over the city and said, you have to live in the city for 5 years. Dover said, okay, we're going to let you kind of govern yourselves. We're going to let you be sovereign and govern yourselves and come up with your own residency requirements. The mayor and his city solicitor took that as, once they gave us that ability to do that, that it erased residency, which doesn't make sense to a lot of people. It just gave us the ability to make residency whatever we wanted it to be. It didn't eliminate it. It just said that you can make it whatever you want it to be. So fast forward, we've had a couple of meetings around if we're going to get rid of residency, if we're going to keep it. So that's what the residents, the community showed up. For the last 2 meetings where residency was discussed on the agenda have been the most community public comments that I've been a part of since I've been on council, and that's been 16 years. So I was extremely happy, like you said, Dad, that the community really showed up because this was an extremely important issue. The first meeting, we had about 3.5, almost 4 hours of public comment, and probably about 80 speakers at a minimum, from those who were in council chambers, and they also have the ability to talk virtually on Zoom. Out of all of those 80 plus speakers, there were four speakers, there were 4 people from the community who gave public comment that sided with the administration and wanted to get rid of residency.
And they were all?
There were 3 police officers and a police aide. Everybody else wanted to make sure that residency stayed intact. Therefore, giving Wilmingtonians, people who live here, who want to live here, the opportunity to have these city jobs. The second meeting, which we had last Monday, which one you're talking about, we had 4 hours of public comment. Every single person who spoke was in favor of residency. No one in council chambers gave a public comment and wanted to get rid of residency. No one virtually, and that says a lot.
Right.
That says a lot, that no one virtually who was, in the comfort of their own home, wherever they weren't in council chambers, no one virtually supported getting rid of residency. And like you said, people were extremely passionate, angry, because it's bigger than, to me and to a lot of people, it's bigger than residency, and it's bigger than the jobs. It's a lot bigger than we can talk about that a little later in the show. But they showed up, and they let us. This was the first time again on council that we've had 2 pieces of legislation that we were discussing before it goes to a full count, and both of them were about residency. Councilmember Bracy she introduced a piece. She had a piece of legislation that said that she wanted to eliminate residency. Councilmember Darby had a piece of legislation that we were going to discuss and vote out of committee that she wanted to keep residency at 5 years. First time that ever happened. Same, pretty much the same legislation, but it's 2 different options. But like you said, the community showed up, and they were passionate, and it worked, because they changed council members' minds, and council members were wise enough to not all of them, like you said, that was very disappointing, that we can have almost 8 hours of public comment and have 4 people who were in favor of ending residency, and everybody else, probably well over 100 people, said that we want residency, and council members still did not understand and still did not follow the lead of the community, which we're supposed to do. Like, we're voted to be the voice of the people, and the people showed up, and council members were still stuck on trying to follow the administration.
You know what, if I may, the one comment that really got me was when a council person said that he had spoken to his constituents and they wanted it to be gone.
They wanted residency to be eliminated. Right.
And his neighbor, his next door neighbor, got up and spoke and said, keep it.
Right.
I just thought that was like
The
crazy
neighbor
to
did
me.
what now?
The neighbor of the council person said that he wanted residency to stay after that council person said that he spoke to his constituents. And this was his next door neighbor, so it was
Right.
like, who did you speak to?
And you know, another council member who was virtual got on there and said he reached out to at least 40 of his constituents, and they said that they were in favor of eliminating residency, which is hard to believe, honestly, because I think it's all in how you present it. And that community, we're talking about the 8th district, that community shows up historically. They show up, like they know the importance of local politics, and they show up when something is really when something is important to them. They show up to civic association meetings, they'll come to committee meetings, they'll come to city council meetings. They understand. They understand the importance of showing up, and they didn't show up, and they didn't. So that's very telling to me that they didn't show up, even virtually. They didn't call in to say, no, we want to get rid of residency, even though their council person who represents them said that they did.
Yeah.
But that's hard for me to believe. I don't want to call anybody a liar, but that's hard for me to believe that
It's
they
stretching
didn't.
the truth.
That they didn't. It helps. It makes me wonder how it was presented to them, because you can present it in a way that says, "Hey, we're having these staffing shortages. We want to make sure that you're receiving all of the services that you're paying for with your city taxes, and we can't find people to work. So of course, you tell me that. Okay, yeah, we need to get rid of it. If we can't find people who live in Wilmington, we need to find out who can work. We need to find them and get them to work so I can have my trash picked up, so I can get all my city services that I'm paying for. But if you tell the bigger story and let them decide on their own, I don't think that happened. I would be very surprised if that happened, because they historically show up. And they, more than any other community in the city of Wilmington, they show up. And so, like, the bigger truth to me is that the city of Wilmington has 110 vacancies, but they've only advertised 15. So that says a lot. The bigger truth to me is that they've only advertised, like, on a website, and how many people really go to the city of Wilmington's website. They've had some job fairs, but how was that even advertised?
Right.
I don't think that we have done enough to make sure that the community knows that we have jobs available. Now they know, because council is pushing back, and council has made it newsworthy. So everybody is writing about it now, and people who showed up to that meeting said, "I didn't know, but I can do this and I can do that. Hire me."
Right.
So that's very telling, that people who came said, I know people, or I myself am willing to work for the city.
Val said at 8 years old she was a crossing guard.
Right. So I think if you tell the complete story, it makes for a better conversation around residency. But if you go in and it's one-sided on either way, I think that's doing our community an injustice. But if you tell the complete story and you put everything on the table, and you listen to the people who show up, like we're paid to do, like we were elected to do, I don't see how any council member is able to sit through those meetings, whether virtual or in council chambers, and not side with the community who showed up. And that was very, very disappointing to me. That was probably one of the biggest disappointments that I've had on city council since I've been on. That many people showed up consecutively, and council members still had their boots dug in the ground saying, "No, this is what I want." And that's exactly what they were saying. "This is what I want. This isn't what the people who I represent want." So that's very, very disappointing.
I think that...
But I'm sorry, Dad. But thankfully, like I said, it worked, because Council Member Johnson at first was not in favor of residency, but he heard the community. He heard their passion, he heard their anger, he heard their concerns, so he voted on our side to at least let full council vote on it. So it does work. It was disappointing, because I don't understand how everybody couldn't be on board with this piece of legislation, but it did work, because now this Thursday, we are going to vote for it before full council at 6:30 this Thursday. So make sure that you come out this Thursday. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. But go ahead, Dad.
No, I guess even greater than residency to me, the fact that the council who did not vote for who came out said they wanted should feel guilty of not representing their community.
They have to. I don't see how they
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's because
And they began to be dictators in saying that I'm on council because I want to represent me. And I think that when that happens, we lose the enthusiasm of the community to be a part of the process.
right.
And when you lose that, you don't get community to follow whatever necessary guidelines to govern. And so governing is a part of the responsibilities of each council person.
Right.
And so through the process of all of you kind of sitting down saying, and I guess that's where I watch in the U.S. Congress people that say, we go on the other side of the aisle. So I think that all of you need to not understand and line up all the facts and say, if this is a fact, this is a fact, this is a fact, this is a fact, and let's say the 8th district did not want residency,
Right.
but 7 or 11 districts did.
7.
Huh?
7.
7 districts did. Then, you know, you have to balance that and follow the what the community wants,
Right.
Right.
not what
majority wants.
influence has made you want to do this based on politics.
Right.
And so I guess someone kind of made it clear when I was listening that they said, we will make sure that you aren't reelected because you haven't followed the guidelines.
Right, and that's all.
Right.
That's what we do. Like we're a voice for people who we represent. So if you have a district, there are 8 districts, like you were talking about. If you have a district, you're supposed to follow the voice of that district. If you're at large, we have 4 at large members plus me as the president. You're supposed to follow what the majority of the community wants.
Yes,
So
particularly at large.
Right. So it's just, and I'm still waiting for a valid reason. If any council member, if anyone can give me a valid reason why we should eliminate residency, we can have a conversation about it. But I haven't heard one yet. I haven't heard one because what you're saying is that the talent isn't here in Wilmington, but we have to expand our borders so that we can hire people. But the talent is here, and Wilmington has a 6% unemployment rate. Newcastle has a 4%. So why would we take from Wilmingtonians and open it up to
Right.
a community of 500,000 people when there are people here who want to work and are qualified to work? And we had a presentation that somebody gave us a couple weeks ago. They said that zip code 19801 is one of the poorest 50 zip codes in the entire country. Why wouldn't we take that opportunity to train people in that zip code so they can be prepared for the types of jobs that the city is offering? I don't know. I can't figure it out. For every argument that someone has tried to talk to me about as for a reason in eliminating residency, I just have facts
Right.
that say that we have to keep it.
Yeah.
So
You mentioned, Trippy, that you want them to know. It was also said that a lot of council people have social media and TV shows and things of that sort to promote what they want. So here on the Congo Hour, we've never not allowed anybody to come on. If anybody is interested in coming on to share with the community why you decided on the side that you decided on.
Right.
So,
And
yeah.
I think that would be a healthy conversation.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody will, because I don't think anybody will, because the facts speak for themselves. And another something else that people bring up is police officers. So they're saying that in this last academy, only 7 police officers only 7 people are qualified to be in the academy, probably the fewest ever. That's not a Wilmington problem. That's not strictly a Wilmington problem.
Oh, no.
That's a county problem. That's a state problem, because I did my research and I talked to people and officers in the county. I talked to officers in the state. They say that they are experiencing the same type of deficiencies when it comes to qualified people to be in the academy. And I get it, but if people don't want to be a county officer, why do we think that opening up our pool to the county would make a difference when the county is going to pay more than the city? The county is given a $25,000 signing bonus. The city isn't. So you live in the county, but why would you want to work for the city when it's a more dangerous job?
Right.
And you're going to get less money. It doesn't make sense. Like, the numbers don't make sense. Same thing for the state. The state used to get, I think it was 3,000 applicants. A state of 1 million people used to get 3,000 applicants for like 30 jobs. Now they get like 300. Same thing with the county. The last 2 county academies one had like 5 people, one had 11. So it's not what they're trying to make it seem it is. It's the police departments need to recreate who they are and how they're seen in the community. And that's when I think
true.
people will be more willing to sign up to be police officers, because who's going to want to be a police officer with the kind of reputation? And I'm not getting on here to bash police. I've always been a supporter of the police, but they have to do some soul searching as a department to figure out how they can present themselves better to a community, so that the community wants to be a part of who they are. But again, this Thursday, so last week it was in a committee, so we had to vote it out of committee. So thankfully, Sinead Councilmember Darby's legislation got voted out of committee, only 4 votes to 3, which was crazy, but it got voted out. This Thursday, we are voting in our council meeting before all of council on whether on her piece of legislation that says residency will remain at 5 years. She has some other awesome
I hope they
points
all
in there
show
too.
up in person.
Right, very true. But we need the community to show up again. I know we've been asking a lot of the community, and they have responded. But we need you one more time. We need you to show up, come early, be there. I would say the meeting starts at 6:30. I would say try to be there between 5:30 and 6, so you can speak. You can sign up for public comment. If you're going to be virtual, just try to sign on by 6:15. I'll be presiding over that meeting. I'm going to let everybody speak. You have 3 minutes, so please try to keep your comments within 3 minutes. But we need for you to show up again to make sure that council members who don't understand, somehow they don't understand yet, but who don't understand yet how important it is that we have to follow your voice, help them to understand that they need to follow your voice on this Thursday and vote in Councilmember Darby's legislation to continue residency for the city of Wilmington. So again, this Thursday at the City County Building, 800 North Front Street. Try to be there early, between 5:30 and 6. The meeting starts at 6:30. Again, if you can't make it, just call us at 302-576-2140. Again, our number is 302-576-2140, and you can get directions on how you can sign up virtually.
All right.
That.
Well, this is really bigger than what it appears to be.
Oh, absolutely.
One of the big things that's that's, I guess, grinding into our community is being pushed aside. And when we say there are no qualified people,
Right.
then you're pushing that people aside instead of preparing them to be a part of the community and a part of the process.
Right.
This is bigger. We are losing confidence from our people. And so if we realize that we're creating crime and slums and everything, that if you aren't employed, if you aren't a part of the process, you're part of the problem.
Right.
And then we will have problems as a result of this crazy attempt to ignore, to not allow folk to be a part of the community in which they live. And anyone who is allowed to come into this community and not have value for the community to live in it, I think that's a crazy, crazy rule.
I'm gonna give you one quick example of how they are playing on people's emotions and their feelings. They're saying that we need sanitation workers, and if we don't get sanitation workers, your trash isn't gonna get picked up on time, or it might not get picked up at all, or you might get picked up days later. But the city has advertised for 2 sanitation workers. They're short 2 sanitation workers, according to what they have put out. So you mean to tell me they can't find 2 people to be sanitation workers? But that's the story they run with, because that works on somebody's emotion. Like, I want my trash picked up, but your trash can't be picked up. The city can't find 2 people. It's almost the same thing like they're doing with the police academy. They're trying to instill that fear factor, when it's just the furthest thing from the truth. Because I talked about this before, that the city of Wilmington, like per capita for our size, we have one of the biggest police departments in the entire country. Over 300 police officers. Hard to believe, because I don't want to talk about that right now. That's another conversation. It is, but I just don't want people to be misled by some of the buzzwords or some of the attempts to create that fear. 'Cause I think that's extremely unfair. But they are giving us the signal to wrap up. So again, thank you so much for tuning in.
Yes.
Thank you, Dad, for coming. And next time we're going to get that scale out. And right? Right? Right. I didn't like that. Whoa, I didn't like that. Right. But listen, we hope that we see you this Thursday, 800 North French Street, at our city council meeting. Try to get there between 5:30 and 6. Meeting starts at 6:30. If you can't join us, we'll try to join us virtually and get your public comments heard. Wherever, either side you're on.
Right.
I'm not asking for people who are just in favor of what I'm in favor of to show up. I'm asking for everybody to show up.